Hello. We need a fenced dog park on Phillip Island. We've needed this for some time. With over 8,000 dogs registered in the area, it's something that is well past due. I speak to council about this all the time. But let's hear what some local residents have got to say about it. Karen, what do you think of the facilities available on Phillip Island for dogs?
Honestly, they're pretty ordinary. They're really quite poor. In fact, there's not a single fenced dog park on the island, which is quite astounding. In terms of the beaches, yeah, sure, we do have access to some beaches, but for the amount of beach there is, we've got such a small access to a small percentage of beach, it's just ridiculous. And even the ones we do have are so heavily restricted, it's not funny, particularly in peak hour. Yeah. Peak season. We live in Cape Woolamai and we've got literally 300 metres of off-lead beach, but there's so much more beach down there that could be used. And even things like poo bag dispensers, bins, water, access for drinking water for dogs, it's just not there. Yeah. And other councils just do it so much better. Like it's not hard, but it just seems like services, facilities for dog owners and dogs down here, it's just not a priority. And that's really disappointing. Given that you've moved here in recent years, did you think the restrictions would be so restrictive? We had no idea. We moved from Oakleigh, and before that I was in Bowen Heads. I remember the day that we put in the offer for our house down here, and Paul, my partner, and I were sitting on the beach going, how fantastic is this, that we're going to bring the dogs and be able to walk along the beach every day. And I guess, to be fair, we could have done more research about it, but we just didn't think it was going to be as restrictive as it is. Yeah. I mean, we moved down here the week before the very first COVID lockdown, and we thought, fantastic, at least we're going to be able to access open spaces and exercise the dog, exercise ourselves, and we were wrong. Yeah. Like we just had no idea it was as restricted as it is. And again, even the beach access that we do have is so heavily restricted, and we would never ever have predicted that. Again, it just seems like dog owners are largely ignored down here. Really disappointing.
Yep. What do you think a good dog park looks like?
It is so not hard to have a good dog park. You need space, and we've got plenty of space in different parts of the island down here. You need secure fencing, double gate access, again for security and safety. We need things like definitely areas for big and small dogs, again from a safety perspective, that you want to keep them separated. Things like tunnels, jumps, ramps, to keep the dogs both mentally and physically active. Things like adequate parking and safe lighting just to make sure that it's a secure environment, and certainly access to toilets. But a lot of these things are actually in place already. Depending on where a dog park is built, not all of that needs to be done.
Are you frustrated with the facilities that we have, given that we pay good dog registration fees?
It frustrates the absolute hell out of me that given what we pay, we get such few resources back. Again, it's just so disappointing that it doesn't seem to be a priority. With the new council that we've had put in place from last year, I am somewhat more optimistic that we might be moving in the right direction. But it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for us and for tourists and visitors that come to the area expecting that we've got good facilities, and we don't.
Where do you envisage that these fees are spent?
Look, I would like to think that it doesn't go into general revenue. To be fair, I think some of it would certainly go to animal management, for rangers, for equipment, cars, all of those sorts of things.
Definitely.
Pounds, I guess some of the money goes to the pound that we have here. Having said that, again, it's really quite an ordinary pound. Things like reunification of missing dogs. I'm aware that the registration tags are used, so I guess that's appropriate. But again, there is no out-of-hours service for lost dogs. So if your dog goes missing in the evening or a weekend or public holidays, there's nothing. And it puts a lot of burden onto the vets, and the vets aren't open out of hours either. Some money would go to signage. The signage we have, having said that, is again pretty ordinary and quite confusing for people. And I guess some of the money goes to community consultation, things like the domestic animal management plan. But I'm losing confidence in that process as well. I think I see a lot of money going in there, and I'm really disappointed.
Do you think we need both off-leash dog parks and off-leash beach areas?
Oh God, absolutely. For very good reasons. Like, not everyone can access beaches. Uneven surfaces, elderly people, people with mobility issues, can't access off-leash beaches necessarily. You can't separate large and small dogs on a beach. The beaches aren't fenced, and if your dog's got difficulty with recall, you just wouldn't and probably shouldn't use an off-lead beach. Also, like, the beaches don't have things like drinking water, shade, shelter. There's not necessarily seating for people. Like dog parks, it's not just about the exercise of the animal, it's for things like social connectedness. You know, we've got a lot of elderly, lonely people down here, and they use dog parks for their, for their mental health, their mental well-being, their physical health as well. Things like tides, like when the tide's up, you can't use an off-lead beach. You can't use beaches, but you can use a dog park. And another thing I thought of before is we have endangered species down here. We've got hooded plovers, and when the plovers are nesting on the beaches, they're actually, it restricts the area that dogs can use. And every dog owner wants the right thing for wildlife. But if you're going to take away some of that space, you need to have an alternative for people to exercise their dogs. And you can't do that when a large area is fenced off. A lot of the beaches, as we know, are not accessible with restrictions. So the dogs are left at home while visitors go and do things where you can't take a dog. And every year, inevitably, people are complaining about barking dogs being left in backyards. Whereas if they could take their dog to a dog park, exercise them physically, mentally, the dog is going to be a lot more settled when they go home, and we'll have less complaints about barking dogs. So, absolutely, we need both. Off-lead beaches and fenced, safe dog parks.
And a dog park is the bare minimum of what we need.